This is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And this is
Season 6 of
Pero Let Me Tell You. For you. You know, I don't care for that song.
Is it because she's on a subway in the dance break?
Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing her t-shirt.
You are wearing her t-shirt.
Welcome everybody to episode 263.
Yes, sir.
Did you see how I remembered that?
You have been getting a lot better.
263 of Pero Let Me Tell You. Happy weekend, everybody.
Yes,
the weekend is here.
Yes. Midway through August at this point.
I told you. It's Christmas.
It's Christmas.
No, Christmas, no. There's already the Valentine's Day candy at the
the little sweet tarts
at the dollar store.
The little chalky hearts.
Yeah. No, but don't they start putting like
well, Dollar Tree already has Halloween.
Right.
Like they full out have already Halloween, and they're starting a smattering of Thanksgiving.
They have like the one cornucopia.
Yes, a cornucopia and a couple of like autumnal leaves.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Who knew that Dollar Tree would become like the seasonal
headquarters?
Depot? Yeah. I love like when my mom or my aunt go to Dollar Tree, like, you know, a month or two before the holiday, like maybe right around the time of Halloween, they go to Dollar Tree and there's already Christmas stuff. Right. They both come back like, ay, como hay cosas bonitas ahí. And I'm like, it's the Dollar Tree.
Okay, for $1.25, they're cute to just poner cosas para tener en la casa. You know, para resolver, they're cute.
Okay.
You know, o para hacer un adorno. You know, to make a wreath.
Centro de
mesa. You know, if you're having like una nochebuena and you want to make unos centro de mesa, you go to Dollar Tree.
Right. And, you create something.
Exactly. Although Dollar Tree has yet to have a caja china.
Okay.
For centro mesa.
I've told you, I've said this before on the podcast. I think that 25 cents really adds up.
It really does. I was doing the math the other day actually with Pim Pam Pollo. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm like, we're spending an extra like $4.
Yeah, like I think it really adds up. It's only a quarter, but the thing is that when you go to Dollar Tree, you buy them almost in bulk. so that quarter adds up really quick.
This is
because
true.
I mean, when have you ever gone to Dollar Tree and bought one thing?
No, it doesn't happen.
Because when I've gone to I go to Dollar Tree a lot of times to get projects for Tristan's.
Right, of course, yeah.
To get stuff for his projects,
poster boards.
And then I'll be like, oh, but I also need some this and I need some that.
Ya que estoy aquí.
And here's this Tupperware that I don't need, but, you know, looks very convenient. It's McCormick brand, so it must be good.
It must be good.
You know, McCormick brand, which is seasoning, but they make Tupperware, so, you know, I must get it.
Well, I mean, if they know seasoning, they must know the things that the seasoning goes into.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh, mira, el aluminio.
Oh, yes.
Is good.
I'm telling you. You just start resolviendo.
Right. So, you know, I went in to buy a poster board and
$40 later.
Buying 30 more items, you know, times 0.25.
Correct. Because it's all, and then add the tax.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, we hope everybody's having a good week. Yes. It's still summer.
It is, despite the fact that I'm wearing a throw blanket.
Yeah, but in my house, it's always winter.
This is...
It's like a Tori Amos song.
I was going to say, that sounds
Snow can wait. I forgot my mittens. It gets a little cold in my heart when I think of winter.
Or when I think of the Borges household.
Yeah. You know what? If there's any singer who is winter, it's Tori Amos.
But not like in a dead time of year way.
I'll never forget that my brother doesn't know who Tori Amos is. He's like, who's Tori Amos?
Tori Amos. That's a different person.
And it's funny because like whenever I would play her videos, or maybe, you know, when I had her CDs laying around some years back, that he would be at my parents' house when I still lived there, he'd be like, oh, you and this weird music you listen to. And I'm like, while I wouldn't say Tori Amos is commercial,
right?
She's far from being like
post-industrial,
weird
band.
You know, that's like, I'll never forget that the first time I went to Europe, which was in 1998, I bought a bunch of Kylie Minogue singles because
you were in Europe.
The import singles were no longer imports; they were
just singles.
And that's when she was in that Impossible Princess phase.
Yes,
and he was like, what shit is this? Like, who is this? Like, this is weird stuff. I'm like, it's fucking Kylie Minogue. Like,
Yeah,
you don't get more garden variety.
Yeah, she could have
and
more
not
pop if she
offensive.
tried.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
you know, she's like kid music almost.
She might as well be like, now that's what I call Kylie.
Oye, bueno, something I actually wanted to talk about this week.
Yep.
Actually, before we start talking about anything,
Okay.
I want to sort of send out some concern, good wishes,
Some love
to Maui.
Oh my God, that is so horrible.
Oye, when they say Maui's on fire, Maui is on fire.
Well, Lahaina is no longer there.
Yeah.
Lahaina's gone.
Yes. And I actually, I have to be honest, I was seeing it in the news, like when I log into wherever to see it, but I hadn't read it. Because I was like, oh, you know, I don't know why I assumed that. It's like, oh, they're having...
Like California wildfire.
Right. Wildfire, which is a big deal. But then actually today, I actually did start reading on it, and I didn't realize the catastrophe that it is. Yeah. It's like wiping the island.
It's so sad. It is so sad. And well, I mean, we've both been to Maui, and it's just to think about like the beauty that is there. And it's
the road to Hana.
The road to Hana.
Que nunca, a Hana nunca se lleva. But Hana is the perfect...
You've been to Hana.
Yeah.
Okay.
The road to Hana is the perfect... to quote Steven Tyler and Aerosmith, life is a journey, not a destination.
This is
the
very
road
true.
to Hana. The beauty part is the road.
It's a road.
Yeah.
Porque
when they got Hana, it's like, oh,
it's like,
this is
what's pretty. The Seven Sacred Falls is up there. No?
I don't remember. But anyway, you know, our thoughts go out to everybody in Maui, and it's
the Big Island also is being affected.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Big Island, Hawaii.
So, you know, hopefully they get rain.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you think about it like they're an island, right? So you would think, well, this should not be a problem, right? But it's not that easy.
Yeah, but it's a volcanic island.
Yeah, exactly. so you know, there's challenges.
That.
Yeah.
But you know, it's funny because Hawaii is one of these places because it's known for being a paradise and just being amazing and
rightfully so.
You don't. Bad things happen in Hawaii, but
you don't think about bad things happening in Hawaii.
It's Hawaii.
Aside from like a volcano.
Right. It's Hawaii. And I mean, obviously that's a very ignorant thing to say, but you know, when something of this magnitude happens anywhere, but especially happens in Hawaii, it's like, wow,
these things don't happen in paradise.
Yeah, these things don't happen in Hawaii,
yeah.
But they do actually. So good wishes to them.
Yes.
So you know who's not having a very good week?
Well, the residents of Hawaii, but who else?
Lizzo.
Oh yes.
So I kind of wanted to talk about this whole Lizzo.
Yes, I wanted to bring it up last week, and I totally forgot. Actually,
right. Well, I feel it got even more momentum.
Yeah. So
I feel it's like a snowball.
They were just waiting for us to cover it, really.
Right.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, about a week ago, 3 former backup dancers of Lizzo sued her.
Yeah.
For sexual harassment, among other things. And, you know, they pretty much said that working with Lizzo was a hostile work environment. One of them specifically said that there was an instance where I think they went to like a strip club or some place where there was somebody performing either in the nude or doing a striptease. And Lizzo told the dancer, like, oh, you got to touch him. You got to grab him. You got to touch the exotic dancer. So basically it's these allegations that Lizzo and her people were very hard to work with, aside from the sexual harassment of it all, called the dancers overweight and fat, made derogatory comments about their weight. Also, it was a hostile work environment, and it's pretty damning allegations. Now, as we all know, one of the things that made Lizzo so popular, I think, aside from her talent, you know, she could sing and she's a great performer and she plays the flute and all that.
Right. But what made her stand out
is the whole body positivity shtick that she has, and how she's a big girl, and you know, she rocks it, and you know, and I would always say this about her: I'm not a huge fan of her music, but I liked her because there was a lot of positivity, a lot of
the message,
good energy about her. You know, you would see her and you would smile. So obviously these allegations come out, and people are canceling her left and right. Even Beyonce,
starting with Beyonce, yeah.
Beyonce has a remix of "Break My Soul" where she mentions a bunch of like, you know, significant black women.
She does like the Vogue breakdown,
and she took Lizzo out when she did her performances on her tour this week. And the backlash has been pretty big online. So, as always, what do you think about this? Do you think we're too quick to judge the court of public opinion? Is this a situation where we got to listen to the victims? Is it truth somewhere in the middle? When you read all this and heard about this, what was your thought on it?
So my initial reaction was, okay, I'm not saying this didn't happen, right? I think if these women are coming forward, something happened, right? Yep. What happened that what is it? There's two sides to every story. The truth's in the middle, blah, blah, blah.
There's three sides to every story.
That's
mine
right.
and
the truth, right? But I had two initial thoughts. So irrespective of what happened, on the face of it, it kind of reminded me of a few years ago when the whole backlash situation happened with Ellen. Mm-hmm. And I started to think about how this is another scenario where, again, irrespective of whether this did or didn't happen, right? Because if it did happen, it's one way, and if it didn't happen, is another way. But go with me on this, listeners. Here's someone who has built the entire public persona on, I'm fun, I'm positive, I'm happy, I'm inclusive, I'm all about everybody. And there's always going to be a contingency of people somewhere who are going to be like, that's fake, that's not true. And you can't keep that up all the time because you're a human being. You know what I mean? You're going to have a shitty day. You're going to have a day where you're going to be like, that looks horrible on you. You know what I mean? Like,
you're just going to be nasty.
You're just going to be nasty. I mean, whatever. We're humans, right? So that was the first thought I had. I'm like, this is also, unfortunately, sometimes what happens when your personality in the public persona is all about shiny, happy, everything. The second thing I thought of was, this is actually kind of a lesson for people like Lizzo. Insofar as, I don't know if you saw her documentary. I did. Lizzo growing up was always considered like the weird girl. She was into anime. She wasn't exactly popular, et cetera, right? So now she's on top of the world. She's hanging out with her tour and her bandmates and her dancers. And guess what? For the time of that tour, this is your friends and family. Like, this is your social group, right? Mm-hmm. So when they go to a strip club in Amsterdam, maybe in her mind, in Lizzo's mind, the initial thing when the girl said, no, I'm good, was kind of like, and I'll use you and me as the example, like if we were to go out somewhere and we're all like having a shot, right? And you're like, no, I don't want a shot. What would we all start doing? Be like, do it, right? But that's just friends with friends. Right. Unfortunately, in this situation, she's the boss. Right? And so I think there was perhaps in that specific incident, and maybe similar ones, a disconnect for her where she forgot.
Right.
She is the boss.
She thought she was one of the girls.
Right.
And in reality, she could shut that whole thing down.
Right. And I think there's an element of that in there too, which I'm not excusing it, but I'm trying to understand where she came from, because I don't think that any of the allegations that I saw in terms of the sexual harassment was like her going up and like, slapping people or grabbing. It was things like that, things that in a context of a friend group hanging out, most people would probably just be like, stop being so fucking annoying,
or
but
the flip side to that is, because I agree with what you're saying, that a lot of times these people, especially when they're young and they're out and they're touring and they're partying, which is, is very much, comes with touring, if she wouldn't do that, if she'd be reserved,
separate
herself from the dancers and all that and the entourage.
She's a frigid bitch.
Then yes, she's a frigid bitch.
Right.
So it's like you don't have because we hear that so many times.
Yeah. Lizzo's strict orders are nobody look at her in the hallway.
Right. We hear that so many times from people that have worked or have been in the building, because it's always somebody who was like there because they weren't supposed to be there, but they were there because of somebody else. Blah 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 blah. Right.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, I was there around so and so, and then they'll tell you, oh, she didn't look us in the eye. And she didn't, she ignored us. And it's like, well, a lot of times they have to do that for their own protection, because if they become very friendly with you, they're held to a higher standard.
Right. They're the boss.
Right. They're the boss. They're held to the higher standard. They're scrutinized very differently than everybody else. So then things like this happen. I'm very torn about it, because on the one hand, I feel that if these people went forward with this and are putting themselves in the middle of this controversy, something did happen.
Right.
On the other hand, just, maybe it's my legal mind or just the fact that I'm not a judgmental person, I will withhold judgment on this because there's still a lot that we don't know. This just happened, and people are already canceling her left and right and saying that she's done and all that. And I again, we don't. There's a lot that we don't know.
Right.
There's a lot. There's a lot that could have happened, but based on what I've read, if these things were true, this sounds to me like there's a lot of bad decisions that were made,
right,
and maybe just a toxicity that maybe wasn't intentional but did happen nonetheless. And that doesn't make it better. That doesn't give them an excuse. But I do think that celebrities, because they're scrutinized differently, do have to take certain steps to protect themselves. Now, Lizzo is still a newish artist. She's sort of new at this. But, I'm happy you bring up Ellen, because Ellen was one of these people that for so many years she was... we love Ellen, all this positivity. And
happy lady, yeah.
Happy lady. And all of a sudden, that ship turned around. And it wasn't only because of the things going on allegedly in the workplace, but, a lot of people in the LGBT community, did not like Ellen. Yeah. Because they thought she should be more open about it. I'm like, she is in everybody's TV. She's in millions and millions and millions of homes every day talking about her wife. I don't know what more do you want? And that's just her brand also. She's not... That's who she's always been.
Well, she's never been, at least her public persona, again, has never been quote unquote militant lesbian.
Right.
She's a comedian, which also you have to, as a comedian, you have to endear yourself to the biggest group possible, especially back when she was coming up. Mm-hmm. We're talking Johnny Carson.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see how this plays out. I'm not rushing to judgment on either side.
You know what else I thought of though? I also thought of how, again, hindsight and how times change. The second thing I also thought of was Truth or Dare.
With Madonna?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How a lot of those scenes, nowadays, those dancers would all, she'd be in court for years.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just over the Evian bottle.
Oh, for sure. For sure. For sure.
Just over that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah. You're probably right.
When they're all in bed together in the scene and all that. I mean, just think about it, because you want to talk about a group of people who had to essentially come together, no pun intended, Madonna song, during this tour and during the filming, and they had to present a certain atmosphere, or else that documentary doesn't work.
No, I mean, I also think that documentary, it's a very different beast, because that was done at a time where those documentaries did not exist. So I feel that it wasn't, you didn't know what a documentary or a reality
that's true.
project looked like back then.
Yeah.
So I feel that movie in particular, Madonna's Truth or Dare, was real. That was real. I mean, sure, there were probably some scenes that were set up in terms of the camera, but most of it was real. And I agree. I think there's a lot that they showed in that documentary that now... There's nothing crazy that happened in there, but now it would not be...
It wouldn't be seen as harmless fun.
Just the scene when they're playing Truth or Dare, that, as you said, they're egging each other on.
Right.
That
make out.
That could be seen as harassment now.
Yeah.
And a toxic work environment and all that. So yeah, times change and all that. So something a little bit more lively. This is something that I posted. There's two actually very Florida things that I want to talk about. This is something that I posted in our Instagram this week about here in Miami. 30 cars that they found in
only
a lake.
30.
Only
there's more. There's gotta be more.
There's gotta be more lakes. But when I read that, and the great thing is that I read that in NBC.com, and I'm sure that anybody outside of South Florida that reads that would be like, what were 30 cars doing in a lake in Florida in South? Yeah, how peculiar. Right. Somebody outside of Florida would not go. That's the classic if you know, you know. Oh, right? Yes. But being from Miami, we know what 30 cars in a lake means.
I'm pretty sure Miami Stadium has covered 22 of those cars.
I mean, we all know a guy who knows a guy,
Right.
who will make your car disappear.
Yes.
Eso lo tiras en un canal.
And then they found
And
them.
when I would hear of these, canales that they would throw cars in, because we've all been there. We've all been in that conversation. That you hear somebody saying, oh, chicos, si tú no quieres el carro, yo conozco a alguien, llamamos y tiran el carro en el canal.
Te lo desaparecen.
Te desaparecen el carro en el canal. And I'm like, so where is this such canal that all these cars end up in? Well,
we found one.
We found one.
Found one of the many.
One of the many.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure if somebody like, you know how people on the beach, you see the people on the beach with the little metal detectors?
Oh.
Yes. I'm sure if some retired guy here in Miami and Dade County went around canals and lakes just with a little metal thing.
You've just given me an idea. My father has one of those things. He is retired. I'm going to float it by him.
It'll be like, beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
Beep, 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 beep. It's like, oh my God, there's so many.
Yeah. It's a dealership down
there. What's great? That a lot of those cars, when they find them, they're missing parts because...
Well, of course.
Because, you know how it is. Okay, well, if you're going to throw my car in a canal, let's first dismantle it.
Fuck yeah.
Right? And sell the parts so I can make money out of it.
Twice.
And everything with a VIN number, you're going to...
Get erased. Yes. You got to sand it off. Listen, it's sad that neither you and I have dumped a car in a canal, and yet we know all about the...
It's part about living in Miami.
It's South Florida, Miami culture.
You know.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I heard that. I was like 6 or 7.
Oh, I don't remember the first time, but yes.
I remember the first time I heard that. And it was of somebody that I know that I remember. It was a Mustang 5.0. This was like a long time ago.
Nice
I was a kid. And I think they couldn't afford it anymore. They're like, no, lo vamos a tirar en un canal. And I remember thinking like, pero ¿por qué tú vas a hacer eso un carro tan bonito?
Right.
This was like my 6, 7-year-old mind thinking. And it's like, oh, this is the way things are in Miami. Like, but that's the first thing I read. I'm like, if
Miami.
If Karen in Nebraska reads 30 cars are in a lake in Miami, that, as you said, that's so peculiar. What are 30 cars doing in a lake? How does that happen? But if you're from Miami,
I can imagine them just being like, is it near a highway where there's lots of accidents?
But if you're from Miami, you know exactly what that means.
Yeah, a couple of people that I follow personally reposted when the NBC6 coverage of it, and a lot of them were like, people in Miami getting scared, a lot of people in Miami frightened, a lot of people in Miami freaking out. Like,
those VIN numbers are forever. People
better hope that those VIN numbers have been sanded to the bone.
Yeah, those VIN numbers are forever. So the other thing I sort of wanted to mention, that this wasn't in Miami, but it's a very Florida thing.
Okay.
Did you hear what happened to Jane Castor, who is the mayor of Tampa?
No.
So Madam Mayor Jane Castor of Tampa here in Florida was fishing, and when she was fishing like normal regular folk fish in Florida, and she caught something.
Was she fishing like off a pier?
No, I think she was on a boat.
Okay.
Yeah, she caught something. She caught a bag with $1.1 million of cocaine.
God.
Welcome to Florida.
She got the square grouper.
Again, that is tell me you're from Florida without telling me you're from Florida.
Let me tell you something. 1.1. It's not actually. I'm more not amazed at the cocaine part, because that's like old hat down here. But wow, $1.1 million worth.
Well, there's inflation, I don't know what cocaine goes for, but everything else. I mean, eggs cost more.
That's
so
true.
Why wouldn't cocaine?
It stands to reason. If gas goes up, so must coke.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
Right. El huevo subió la leche.
La cocaína.
La cocaína.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, have you bought, cheese lately?
I mean, you can't get more of a luxury item than cocaine.
Yeah. So, that's such a Florida thing. Cars in a canal and fishing cocaine. I mean, welcome to Florida.
The only thing more Florida than that was if they had found the cocaine in the cars in the lake.
Probably, if you search hard enough.
Give it enough time. Let them start sacando cosas del maletero y el boat.
Ahí seguro hay varios marimberos in those cars, that have been missing for like 30-some years.
Oh, yeah. They're about to find some skeletons, too.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
So as I say, tell me you're from Florida without telling me you're from Florida. That should be in today's things that only happen in Florida corner on Pero Let Me Tell You. Yeah.
Tell me you're from Florida. Oh, God, yeah. I wonder if they're going to keep dredging up other lakes. How did they even get to that lake? Like, was it a tip?
That doesn't matter.
Okay, no, but now I'm just thinking out loud, right? I'm like, okay, was it like somebody gave a tip, or was it somebody like, I don't know, was it just the time to dredge that lake?
I don't know. I should have read that in the multiple articles.
No, we all stopped after we read the 30 cars.
Yeah. Like, no, it had me at the headline.
Yeah, there's no reason to keep going after that. Like, honestly.
When I read the 30 cards in the headline, I was like, finally.
Mine was only 30?
Only 30?
Because that's a very small number.
Oh, no, but there's more. That's like, I've told you
That's
this.
just a lot of lakes.
I've told you this. There are houses here in Miami that exist that have bags of money in the backyard and the owners don't know it.
Yeah.
Because in the 80s, all these drug dealers and marimberos, you know, all their money,
Yes,
they
sir.
used to hide it in bags.
And they're all out in horse country.
And in horse country or por la calle 8 y la 150 y pico, donde vivían todos marimberos. You know, we all know where that was.
Out west.
Out west.
West.
We
It's-
all
it's
know where
west.
that was.
It's not in La Ocho.
No, we all know where
Right.
that was. And I'm sure that there are still houses out there that one day somebody's going to be planting a garden and they're like, holy shit.
Pero ¿cómo que tú fuiste a poner una bugambilia y te
Yeah.
encontraste un
That's not gonna
maletín
happen
de
to me.
dinero?
Where my house was built, it's a newer construction. It's not going to happen.
Aw.
But, you know, but if you have a house that was built in like the 80s,
Yeah.
in
Out,
those
like,
areas,
past 117th.
y que tiene mucha reja.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know
Yeah.
that you hit the jackpot.
If you had to remove rejas from your house, dig
Yes.
the backyard.
That, you know what? That's a good litmus test. If you bought a house that was built in the 80s,
Yes.
y
Past
tenía,
117.
y tenía mucha reja with a big fence, and it had those doors that had the lions on
Oh,
them,
the lions.
right? Check your backyard.
They might be under the lions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Check your backyard.
Check your backyard. Lion marks the spot. Sometimes it's X, sometimes it's a lion.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Miami. What are we going to do with you? All right, mi gente. Now, as you know, we've been partnering all summer long with the Florida Dairy Farmers, and we're here again with our friend Diane Smith from Florida Dairy Farmers. She's the Director of Marketing and Partnership. Diane, thank you again for coming back to join us. I love having you on. Every time, I said the last time you were here, every time that you are on and we're talking, I learned so much, and I just feel like, okay, my dairy knowledge has expanded because of you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. You know, I've been with the Florida Dairy Farmers for 16 years now.
Wow.
And I've just learned so much throughout the years. I've had so many great opportunities. So I always love talking about milk.
Well, then you definitely, being with them for 16 years, have some tips, tricks, and recipes as we start looking at back to school. You know, it's coming, whether we want it to or not. I think some parents do, right? Summer, they want them to go back to school, some of them. But what are all the great snacks and treats that we can put into, you know, kids' breakfast, lunch, snacks that incorporate dairy?
You know, I think a lot of the times people are so focused on like, what pair of shoes am I going to buy? Or what outfit or shirt do I need and all that they don't really think about what are the kids going to be eating.
Right.
You know, and I think it's important, you know, for them not only to have a healthy breakfast, but as well, we want them to have healthy snacks because, you know, when they come from school, they're starving.
Yes.
And whatever they find around, they're going to eat. So, you know, at Florida Milk, we have, I think, worked really hard to just create some great, easy recipes that are going to take the stress from you, either from picky eaters to somebody who eats anything, any of those teenagers that you're going to have some nice, hearty, you know, snacks for. I think that, you know, dairy products, you know, we know they are a healthy and nutritious and sustainable product. You can have milk, you can have cheese, you can have yogurt, you can have ice cream, and you can make so many different things with it. So one of the things that we always recommend for back to school is maybe sure that you plan it out, right? The week before, so then you know what you have. And then you can just kind of like have a little menu. So what you can prepare, what you need to get, and then you'll be all set. So then what we want to do is make sure that they eat a healthy breakfast because studies have shown that kids who eat breakfast perform better at school
Absolutely.
because they're more awake, they can pay more attention, and they learn better, they have better behavior, and the list goes on and on. And then we also want to make sure that they're having a healthy snack when they come home from school. You know, of course, they have to have a healthy lunch, you know, at school as well, or if you pack it for them. But when they come home, have something healthy for them. If you already have something prepared for them, it's going to avoid that impulse to just, you know, grab
The
any kind of
sugary
junk food that is
snacks.
on their way. Exactly. So, you know, we have like popsicles you can make for them, or a yogurt parfait, or cheesy toast, or healthy pizza. I mean, there are just so many recipes that we have on floridamilk.com as well as in Leche de Florida. I think we have a list of like 30 back to school snacks or things like that you can check out. But there's just tons of things that you can do with dairy products to not only provide them something they're going to like because it's delicious, but something that is going to be nutritious for them as well.
Well, you just made me hungry with that list of items that you just gave me, not gonna lie. So, but as a mom yourself, I want to ask, what is one of the easiest ways to incorporate dairy into, the average after school snack, right? Like you were saying, obviously you want to plan ahead and think ahead so they're not just like, oh, here's some candy or chips or what have you. But how can we incorporate dairy into those moments in a way that's, no fuss, no muss?
The easiest way is to make ahead some overnight oats that they can have them for breakfast or they can have it for a snack in the afternoon. A simple cheese stick, a mozzarella cheese stick with a piece of fruit. Like I know I always grew up eating like a cheese stick with an apple or a banana.
Same here.
Right. And then we can also have the yogurts, right? Like a yogurt parfait yogurt, and then you can have some fresh fruit in there. So they're getting a really balanced nutrition and it's super easy. And I will tell you for the moms out there who drink coffee and even some kids, older kids that are starting to drink coffee. One of the recipes I was making today was actually little ice cubes, but they're actually cold brew ice cubes. And then I just put it in a little tray. And then what you do is you freeze it overnight. And then the next morning, you just take a glass of milk and then you just drop in some of the ice cubes for the cold brew ice cubes. And then you're on your way. If you want sugar, you can add it. If you like flavoring, you can add it. But it could be simple as just a glass of milk with some cold ice brew coffee cubes. And you're on your way to go to drop off the kids or to go to work or to do whatever you want to do.
I don't think it can be any easier because literally the freezer is doing the hard part for you. That is the easiest way to do it. Absolutely. So, I'm as we wrap up, mostly because, again, as I said, you just made me hungry and I've got to go find some dairy snacks to have now in the afternoon. But I just want to remind all of our listeners, all of the benefits of dairy, especially, again, us being from Florida, the Florida dairy farmers, it's so wonderful. And you can really learn more about the benefits, the recipes, just so much information at floridamilk.com and lechedeflorida.com. It's, it's there. And really, there's no excuse for you not to figure out ways to incorporate and have a healthy snack, healthy lunch, healthy breakfast for your kid.
Absolutely. Just remember, each glass of milk has 13 essential nutrients, 8 grams of high quality protein. Right. So with that combination, it's just something that is going to set you up to feel full and to be able to pay more attention and to succeed because we all want our kids to succeed.
Absolutely.
And if they don't have fuel, they cannot perform.
Of course.
So let's give them some good stuff.
Yeah. Well, again, Diane, thank you so much for stopping by. It's been fantastic chatting with you as always. And, we're going to visit those websites and find some recipes because I don't have kids, but I do get hungry. So I'm still going to go ahead and pull those recipes down for me.
Hey, and you can always follow us on social media. We are on Instagram. We are in YouTube. We're on Facebook at Florida Milk or at Leche de Florida.
See, 0 excuses, y'all. 0 excuses. All right. Thank you again, Diane.
Thank you.
It's August, and while summer may be ending, back to school is just around the corner. That means it's time to start packing lunches again with healthy options like dairy. Whether yogurt, cheese sticks, or grilled cheese, there's many ways to include dairy for those back-to-school lunches and ensure that kids get protein, vitamin D, and calcium. And that's in addition to breakfast with some milk, either by the glass or in a bowl of cereal. For more ways to include dairy as part of your back-to-school routine, visit floridamilk.com or lechedeflorida.com and get more info as well as recipes. Trust me, including dairy in their lunches is way easier than trying to remember how to solve word problems. Well, I know what a lot of people are doing. They're moving away.
They're moving away.
We talked about last week.
Yeah, a shit ton of people said it. Actually, commented on the post this week.
Yeah.
Also, we got people replying to us about the Buc-ee's. There's 2 in Florida.
Well, you had said that.
No, but they gave us the exact locations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it's northern Florida.
Yeah, but they gave us like the exact. They're like, it's on exit this by here. Blah, blah. I was like, wow.
But you know what though? I mean, don't get me wrong. If I'm driving out of Florida and I see a Buc-ee's in Florida, I'm stopping. Right. But I think there's something about going to Buc-ee's in Texas.
No, of course. But I mean, if you're not going to Texas, then stop.
No, of course.
I mean,
I'm not gonna be like, no, I can't go.
I can't go
the
to that
Buc-ee's
one.
in Florida address, but
So I wanted to bring something up because I'm sure you saw it, and I just find it interesting. So Florida has some political kerfuffles here and there. Did you see that this past week, Ron DeSantis essentially admitted that Trump lost the election?
Yes.
And I love it because I love to watch people flail. Mm-hmm. Whereas I don't understand why he didn't just do this from the start, because the people who are going to vote for Trump are never going to vote for DeSantis. Mm-hmm. So what were you courting?
Well, he had already said it without saying it.
No. But what I'm saying
right,
is,
but
like,
he said it on the record now.
Dude, I'll say this: you're not going to win those people over,
right?
So just come out and say it, and work with what you got.
He retooled his.
He fired
half of his staff.
Yeah, he fired everybody,
including his campaign manager this week.
Which is what you do when you're trailing in the polls.
And I mean, look, as somebody who worked in politics, or somebody who just follows politics, you don't have to work in politics to know this. You can't count somebody out because they're not doing well in the polls. I mean, obviously he's going against a behemoth that is Donald Trump, and I've said this before, and I mean, everybody knows this. All the rules on politics and elections and all that go out the window when it comes out to Donald Trump. It's like kryptonite. It's like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like whatever you think worked for any other candidate in the history of American elections, it doesn't work, or it doesn't apply to him the same. He had said, Ron DeSantis, after the 2020 election, he very proudly went on television, very proudly, and said how the election integrity for Florida had been spot on, which it was. Yeah, it was. There was no major issues here with voter fraud.
Traditional. No, but it was like within the usual, like,
right. There was no issue here with voter fraud or ballot harvesting or nothing like that. And he very proudly, which was true, went on there and like, I held, we ran a tight ship here in Florida. So you can't pick and choose your battles, because then later when, this whole rhetoric was being spewed out about the election being stolen and all that stuff, he created a task force here in Florida to prevent voter fraud. Right. And he spent, I don't know how many millions of dollars and created a whole task force. Right. To ensure that there was no fraud in the election process here in Florida. And after this whole investigation and this whole thing, they found, I think it was under 20 people.
That's what I'm saying. It was like within the acceptable.
So when he says
amount.
Now, he lost the election. I mean, he said it with the exact words, but I mean, he had already in just what he had said it to himself. That
it just seems to me like somebody who's trying to course correct to appeal to someone. It just seems to me again, like, and I've said this to you several times, where it's like when him and several politicians across the board, but whenever he comes out and says things, I have told you in the past, I'm like, he's not doing this out of conviction. He's not saying these things out of conviction. He's saying it because he has cultivated fan base X, and this is what they want to hear. And to me, that's worse. Because if you are saying something because you truly, wholeheartedly believe it, I may disagree with you, but you know what? That's your conviction.
But here's the thing, though.
You're just an opportunist.
He can't out-Trump Trump. And the problem with him, that's one of the reasons why he's going right of Trump, which there's something else that I want to bring up in a minute. That's why he's going right of Trump, because he wants to distinguish himself from Trump. Because just the other day, his election, a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month or two ago, actually it was in June, it was during Pride, his election came up with this video about how Trump loves the gays. Because
well, yes, Tiffany had
during 2016, Trump did attend LGBT rallies for him. What is it? Log cabin. Republicans. He had, and he actually said that he would support the LGBT community when he first got elected. He said that he wouldn't do anything to reverse marriage equality. Right. So he actually.
Say what you will.
He actually, for a time, did have moderate views, if you will, in terms of LGBT issues. So Ron DeSantis came out with this video saying how he loved the gays, right? Because what can he do? He can't get in the boxing ring with him. Right? Because say what you will about Donald Trump, he's charismatic. He's a train wreck that everybody wants to watch.
He's an entertainer.
Right. He's an entertainer. He's a showman. And Ron DeSantis can't
match that.
He can't match that at all. Like, he has no personality, right? So what is he trying to do? He's trying to, go right of him and then come up with all these ridiculous, insane laws that are being passed here now. I love whenever he does a campaign speech or whatever, Ron DeSantis, they count how many times he says woke. And it's like, 80 to 100 times in like one speech. So.
And the reason that they can count that now is, anytime that it's a black person hired, it's because of the skills learned from slavery.
Yes.
And so that's a good thing. Yes.
So, oh my God.
Yes.
So actually, I did want to bring something up and related to him. And I have to tell you that, I don't know, maybe our listeners have picked up on this. There has been a lot of things happening here in Florida. And, a lot of times here in the podcast, I sort of struggle on what to bring up or not politically because, as I've always said, we're not a political podcast, but we do talk about politics. And, during election years, we talk a lot about politics, but I also understand that a lot of our listeners just want to listen and have, listen, laugh, and learn. Right. And they want to have a good time. And, I because I in part work in politics and I'm so bogged down by it, sometimes I just don't want to talk about it.
Right.
Like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, you don't want to bring your work home with you.
Bring it, up in the podcast. And sometimes I'm like, if we bring up everything, especially now, then every week it's going to be, the same thing. And, sometimes people just want to break about that. People just want to smile and go on with their day, even if the world is falling apart.
But we all need a break. We all need.
So, but, I felt that there was something in particular this week that happened that I needed to talk about because it's just when you think that things can't get more insane, they do. Mm-hmm. So as many of you may have heard, in the last 2 weeks, there was this whole issue with AP credit courses with psychology and the Don't Say Gay bill here in Florida. So basically what happened was that as many of you know, the Don't Say Gay bill or parental rights bill is in effect here in Florida, which prohibits educators and instructors about talking about sexual orientation, whatever that means. But let's go with it.
Because that is literally the term, the blanket.
Right. Let's go with it.
Yeah.
And now, recently, Manny Diaz Jr., who is the head of education here in Florida, who's lovely, lovely. And I had opinions about him well before he was in this role. If you work local politics, Manny Diaz Jr. Anyway, so they had this whole thing where they were telling schools that they could no longer teach AP psychology because in the study of AP psychology, among the many, 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 many things you talk about in psychology is about sexual orientation.
Well, yeah.
Right. So let me remind people that AP, advanced placement, are college courses.
Yes.
Therefore, those classes that you're taking as a junior or senior in high school are the same classes that you would take at a college level. That's why you can get college credit for them. Yeah. And let me just also remind people that those classes and that curriculum is by the College Board of the United States. It's not the Department of Education of Florida. It's not the College Board of Florida. It is a nationwide standard of the College Board. Right? Mm-hmm. Because what happens if you're an accredited university and you're teaching psychology or any course, there's certain standards in a certain curriculum that you have to follow, right? So the curriculum of AP psychology in Florida is the same curriculum as in Arkansas, Nebraska, Montana, South Dakota, California, New York, so on and so forth. So the College Board made a very, very, this is a non-political institution. It's the freaking College Board that, oversees AP classes and AP tests.
It's a bunch of nedos.
Said that, this was a great interference to ask to teach psychology without teaching
about human sexuality
and sexual orientation, which is I don't want to say it's a huge part of psychology,
but it's a part.
You can't study psychology without studying that, right? So there were a lot of schools now who didn't know if they could teach this. And I have to tell you that despite everything that has been happening in our education system here in Florida, I felt that this in particular was a huge, I mean, you want to talk about a huge blow, but this was a huge like overstep, because you're now talking about changing the curriculum of a course that is very well established. Any college class that you take of psychology now, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, would talk about sexual orientation, right? And now you're even curtailing that. You're even attacking that. That is just, if that doesn't scare you, in addition to the slavery taught black people useful skills, in addition to you can't talk about your partner, in addition to everything else.
My favorite was, did you see the video from the PragerU thing about Columbus, where basically he says like, well, don't judge me too harshly because I had slaves. And in my mind at first I was like, okay, those were the times. In my mind, I was like, it was either that or kill them. And I'm like, oh well, I mean, since you gave us so wonderful options,
right?
Like, I mean, come on.
So, I mean, if that doesn't scare you, and you don't, try to remove your politics or whatever your inclination is, if that doesn't scare you, that you are wiping out a huge part of, or a significant part rather, of a curriculum, a college curriculum on a very important class, because I feel that a lot of people take psychology. I mean, I was a psychology major in undergrad, right? But even people that were not psychology majors take psychology.
Psych 101 is pretty standard,
right?
Yeah.
If you think that that's okay, if you want to say that we're heading in the wrong direction, and that these are, the word fascism is thrown around,
almost as much as icon.
Wow, very freely nowadays. But if you don't think that this is like behavior that is fascist or fascist-like, then we're in a very, very precarious situation here, because that is huge. That you're telling a college course, you now want to dictate the material of what is in a college course. And the first thing that authoritarian rule always does historically is curtail the mindset and curtail education. And the less that you teach people, the more you can indoctrinate them, and the more you can shape their thoughts. Because it's sort of like in 1984, the concept of newspeak. That the less language people know, the more that you can mold.
You've limited them.
You mold that. This is something similar. So that is something that really sort of shocked me. I mean, they got a lot of backlash, and they sort of stepped back on it.
To the credit, I know that Broward and Miami-Dade have said that they are going to proceed with AP Psych. Yeah. So it is still going to be part of the curriculum.
Right. They are, because the thing is that because the Don't Say Gay bill is so vaguely written on purpose.
Right. Nobody has said you can't do it, but then if you do it,
right,
you could you could run into problems. So that's where all of this comes into play.
See, one of the most disgenuine things about all this, in terms of the governor, is that I'll never forget when this bill was first passed. A reporter was asking him about the Don't Say Gay bill, and he was like, where does it say gay in the bill? It doesn't say gay. It doesn't say homosexual. Where does it say it? It doesn't say it. And he scolded the reporter live on television, mind you, for making that. And here's the thing about Ron DeSantis. He is a Yale-educated attorney. He's a smart guy. Anybody who studies law knows that a law that is written vaguely is a really bad law, any law, right? Mm-hmm. Because the problem with a law that is vague is that leads to interpretation, which eventually will lead to litigation.
Right. It'll be challenged eventually, right?
Because you don't know what it says, you don't know how you could apply it. So this law was written vaguely on purpose
Well,
to
there's
set
also-
a chilling factor,
Right.
because now people don't know what to do. Because now if you're a teacher, let's say, in any grade, and in your curriculum you talk nothing about sexual orientation or marriage, nothing, but you have a picture of your significant other and you happen to be in a gay relationship.
Right.
Okay, so is that sexual orientation? Like, are you putting your sexual orientation front and center?
Right.
Something as simple as that.
Right.
Saying my wife if you're a woman, or my husband if you're a man. Like, where are the parameters?
Right,
Because it's a
right.
vague law.
And obviously, a law that is not vague will be challenged much quicker. So again, to your point, it's done on purpose. Like, you can't say, like, a law, not that it would never be put forth, but a law that would be put forth that says you cannot, talk about gay men in the classroom. That will be challenged quicker because automatically it's got something that can be pointed to as far as free speech or equal
but
protection. But I'm saying, by keeping it vague, to your point, everybody kind of has to police themselves.
You don't know what's in or not.
And
you don't know what's in or not. And
it'll take longer to challenge.
It will and it won't. The thing is that if a law says ABC and it's very clear and express, then it could be challenged for being unconstitutional, because you could say, hey, that law shouldn't say this is unconstitutional. But the problem with a vague law is that you don't know if it's unconstitutional or not. So it's not until something happens and then there's a consequence to that happening that you could say, like, oh, wait a minute, maybe this person shouldn't have been fired for this, or maybe this class should have not been taken off the curriculum for this, right? That then you could start litigation. So yeah, it goes with what you said in terms of how fast it is. A lot of the laws that he has passed are unconstitutional, but they have to go through the proper channels and forums in order for them to be rendered unconstitutional. And that takes time.
It's not unconstitutional until there's a case against it, essentially.
Because again, if you already started, or you have long ago, you started with changing history, and this didn't happen, and again, critical race theory. They go on and on about critical race theory. The only place where critical race theory is currently taught in the United States is in law school, and it's an elective.
So it's not even a requirement.
No, I didn't take critical race theory in law school. It's an elective. It's not on any curriculum of any public school in the country, and yet if you hear certain people, you think that is what kids are hearing all day and all night. And they're using maybe specific one-off examples of teachers who have done that. Right. Maybe one teacher here did this and one teacher there, but this is not a systematic or widespread.
And it may have been in the context of a bigger lesson, like slavery or the civil rights.
But even if it wasn't, right? It's isolated incidents where that's not generally what is happening. But again, I go to that saying. I'm paraphrasing here. I forgot who wrote this or exactly how the saying goes. That it says, "One day they came for so and so, and I stayed quiet. One day they came for so and so, and I stayed quiet." And then it goes on and said, "And one day they came for me,
and there was no one there to protest."
Right. And that is true, because if they could do this to, they're doing this to people that now maybe you don't agree with, but eventually there will be something of you or a loved one that will be in the crosshairs of other people. So, yeah. Oh, well.
I know. Got a little deep there. Got a little heavy. Oof. I don't know. I'm like, I don't even know what to talk about after that.
Well, I know.
Oh, well, then go for it.
So the internet went wild this week.
Again?
Well, over what
hasn't it always gone wild?
Over what happened in Montgomery.
What happened in Montgomery? Okay.
You looked at me like I have no clue.
Okay, no, because I've been seeing people be like, "Oh, Montgomery," and then Ana Navarro posted a picture of like a chair on a platform. I have no idea what happened in Montgomery.
Ate that up. Okay,
so what happened in Montgomery?
So this is what happened in Montgomery.
Alabama,
listeners, right? Montgomery Ward.
Well, no, listen, there could be more than one Montgomery. Like it could be like more than one Springfield.
Okay. So in Montgomery, Alabama, in the state of Alabama in the South. So earlier this week, there was an issue where there was a co-captain of a riverboat. as one does in Alabama.
Okay.
You go on a riverboat. They were going down a river.
They were going down the river.
Rolling.
They were rolling.
We're rolling on the river. Down in Montgomery, rolling.
Something tells me it doesn't end like the song.
Rolling. No,
okay.
Do. Or maybe it does. Maybe it does. Anyway, so when this huge riverboat was going to park in the marina in its space, right, there was a pontoon in its place, and it couldn't be there, right?
Okay.
So the co-captain of the riverboat gets off, and he goes and he tells the people, the guys, hey, you need to move your pontoon. This is our parking space for that riverboat for the sea there, right? And we're not talking about like these guys were in a pontoon. Este tipo vino en una lanchita, right?
It's a riverboat.
It's a riverboat with a revolving paddle,
right? Yes, it's a full blown riverboat.
A full blown riverboat rolling down the river. Anyway, so the co-captain, who is black, gets off and tells these guys. And then in the video, you could see that he's telling the guys over and over and over, like, hey, you need to move this. Right. You need to move this. There was alcohol involved.
Okay.
Right? You need to move this. You need to move this. And they're paying no attention to him. Now, the riverboat is full of passengers.
Yes.
So these people needed to get off.
Yeah, these are like gambling cruises. Right.
And dinner cruises. It was a dinner cruise. These people need to get off, right? So after trying for some time, the co-captain unties the pontoon and starts moving it down the dock. And I guess he was going to tie it further down the dock so the riverboat can park. And that's when some white guy who was probably drunk went and charged at him
from the pontoon party.
Yes, the pontoon party. Or was there in the little marina area in the jetty. So he starts attacking the co-captain, who is a black. Right. So then I don't know where all these white people came from. Like within 2 seconds, there was like freaking, all these like white people like kicking and attacking the black guy.
The co-captain.
The co-captain, yes. He was doing his job.
Who's doing his job, right.
And again, the video shows that he like asked them like several times, hey, can you move this? So anyway,
and it's not like he let it just drift away either.
So the people in the riverboat were seeing this happen, and they were like, "Oh no way!" And they start recording it, and a bunch of people there were people who jumped off the riverboat to go to the help of the co-captain of the black guy. Y se formó like. There were chairs flying. They were beating each other up. I mean, it got pretty bad. It got pretty bad. The point is that, the black people there were like, no, this shit is not happening to one of ours. And they went and una piñacera completa. So, and then it became extremely viral. Now, here's the thing.
That's insane.
The moment I saw that, I'm like, there's audio to it, but you can't really hear what's going on there. I'm like, I'm sure these white guys, like the N-word was thrown out, because that's what they do, especially when they're drunk. And that's exactly what happened, because then there's people who testified that they, started calling the captain racial epithets. So that wasn't surprising. But, look, nobody condones violence, and they shouldn't have gotten to that. And and on the one hand, you see that and you're like, is this where we're at, that people are freaking fighting because you can't fucking move your boat, and like the privilege and entitlement that you think that you have. Let's take race out of this.
Also, it's one thing, and I'm not saying this makes it better, but it's one thing for like the one guy to go and start fighting one-on-one. But now there's like 40 of you, or however many it was.
Let's first see this without race being an element. Just the fact that you think you're entitled enough to leave your fucking boat there, that you see this huge riverboat coming, you're like, no, I'm not moving it.
Right.
I'm not moving it because I don't want to. I'm not moving it. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Right? But then obviously there is a racial factor to it. So, on the one hand, I was like, nobody wants this. It makes me sad to see violence at that level. But it's like, you know what? I'm glad that he got the defense that he did, and that
people came to
his defense.
Yeah.
They were black, but whether they were black, white, whatever, that people came to his defense because that man was doing his job. And he got crap beat out of him by these fucking thugs.
For doing what he was paid to do.
For doing what he was paid to do, and he was doing his job, and he was trying to do it correctly.
Right.
And then, so yeah, go defend him.
Yeah.
But there was like two guys that jumped off the riverboat
To go help it.
to go help him.
Wow.
So, and then obviously it became like super viral.
Right.
They did like a whole Good Times intro to it. I mean, I have to show you.
I can't. You have to see it. I have to see it.
It was some funny stuff, but yeah. Rolling down the river.
Yes.
Rolling.
I guess he actually should have left a good job at the city.
Nutbush.
Actually, you know what? That was not a good job in the city, so he should leave.
No. Go to Nutbush. City limits. Nice.
Child's hen house.
Easy. So anyway, so you're thirsty?
I'm a little thirsty. I'm a little
Soda
parched.
time?
So we had a lot of pizza earlier. So.
Yeah. Lots of sodium.
Yes.
So I'm going to go first with my soda.
All right.
So I have a little treat for our listeners.
I do love your soda treats.
So I want you all to look up an Instagram account, and this person is getting my last soda. The name is MaFe Walker, and it's exactly how it sounds like. M as in Mary, A, F as in Frank, E, Walker. MaFe Walker. Look up MaFe Walker on Instagram. And
you won't be disappointed.
You will not be disappointed, and you will spend a lot of time,
more time than you should.
Going through her videos, and you could thank me later. So MaFe was actually, I discovered MaFe through one of our previous guests, Tony X Travels.
I was going to ask you
on the show a few months ago, Jonathan, who's a friend, and he showed it to me, and I kind of went down that rabbit hole. And this lady starts talking about different things, and she talks very fast, but then she starts speaking in some foreign tongue.
Well, she's speaking in Spanish and English.
Spanish and English, but then she goes to another language. And I'm like, okay, this is not a human language. Like, this is not a language that I've ever heard of. And then after a little bit of research, we found out that she talks to aliens.
Yeah.
Right? So her Instagram is about, sending energía, categoría 8 or whatever it is. Hola, la energía, because she could talk to aliens. And I believe her.
I do believe her.
Do you believe her?
I believe her.
I believe her. Her poses are very awkward. She's always near plants that are
Very
like
close to plants.
Hitting her face. But listeners, give her a try. Watch her stuff for a little bit, and it will bring a smile to your face. It will shock you in a way, but it will bring a smile to your face and make you forget whatever it is you were doing.
Oh, that's for damn sure.
That's good. So again, my last soda goes to MaFe Walker, Instagram account MaFe Walker. It's
a treat.
I showed you some videos, and you thoroughly enjoyed them.
Oh, I'm going to go to bed watching them tonight.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and share them with your friends and family.
By all means.
She has over 140,000 followers.
Yeah, so we're not the only ones.
Yeah, we're not the only ones
who are digging it. No. Okay, so MaFe, I don't know how to say my last soda goes to in alien language, so I'll just have to do it in English. Close enough. So my last soda is actually going to someone who I've always enjoyed as an entertainer, Wayne Brady. And the reason I'm giving it to Wayne Brady is this week he came out as pansexual. Now, for those of you who are unaware of what pansexual is exactly, pansexual at the end of the day it's not bisexual, because it's just somebody who has, through soul searching and just coming to know themselves, has understood that they can be open to loving someone across any part of the sexual spectrum. So whether it's man, woman, trans person, non-binary person, etc. So that's why it's pansexual. It just encompasses the full spectrum,
and
of
it's
sexuality.
more based on feeling rather than sex.
Correct. It's basically I'm open to falling in love with any person, right, versus
and the sexual part of it is secondary.
Correct. And I'm giving it to Wayne Brady because I think this is not, he's not like 16. You know what I mean? He's somebody who is un hombre hecho derecho. He has an ex-wife. He has a daughter. So, I mean, this is someone who has lived his life a certain way and took the time to kind of reflect on who he is and come to this determination. And, you know, even in this day and age, anytime you have a celebrity with any degree of recognition come out in such a public way, you know, we've said this before on the show, representation matters, and it does show, you know, just because you are after a certain age or because you are, you know, Black, Hispanic, etc., you don't just kind of have to accept things and shut yourself down based on what society tells you to do, you know? And when someone like him comes out, I think it speaks volumes, you know? And again, it's not the fact that he's pansexual and not like gay or bisexual. I think it's even more beautiful, if I can be that bold to say it, because he's opening up the conversation, like you so eloquently put it, where it's not just about falling in love with, you know, the person's genitalia, right? It's about falling in love with the person. And hopefully that's something that, you know, can help expand our understanding of what the spectrum really is about. At the end of the day.
You know what? I have to say that I was actually very surprised that he came out of anything, right? Because Wayne Brady is one of these people. I mean, everybody loves Wayne Brady.
Yeah.
But Wayne Brady is one of these people that, like, I don't want to say garden variety as an insult, but that's his shtick. He's like everybody's best friend. He's like, you know, Wayne
he's
Brady.
He's a consummate entertainer.
He's very, like, he appeals to a lot of different people, and he's never been controversial in any way, shape, or form.
Sex has never been his shtick.
Never at all. Never. Like, you never, even when he was married to a woman, like, you never thought about Wayne Brady with his wife. It's just, it was a very kind of, that was never his sexuality, even when he was in a heterosexual relationship.
It was never part of the Wayne Brady conversation.
Right. It was never part of the Wayne Brady brand.
Right.
Because Wayne Brady, I do believe, is a brand. He's very like bubbly and very, you know, you didn't stop to think about,
even when he played a drag queen on Broadway, because he was in Kinky Boots.
Right. You never stopped to think about Wayne Brady and in any aspect of the sexual spectrum.
Right.
And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that rather as, like, that was a persona that he had built. Right. So, you know, the fact that he did come out, that he felt that it was important. I think that's good for him.
Yeah, good for him. And, you know, and again, good for representation, which at the end of the day, we need more and more of.
And he's hilarious.
He's just great. I mean, he sings, he dances, he's funny, he can do drama. I mean, you know what? He's already kind of pan in terms of his talent. So why not be pansexual? Right?
Was he your favorite, and whose line is it anyway?
I don't know if he was my favorite. It would, you know what?
Who was a skinny tall guy?
Oh gosh, I think that was Brian. No, the one from Drew Carey.
You know, I have to tell you something about.
I used to love that show.
When that show was on like first run, I didn't watch it.
Right,
I didn't care. But then I don't know, maybe it's because I was a little bit older. You know, because obviously comedy in your 20s is not the same thing as comedy in your 30s. That I was a little bit older, that when I started watching the reruns, I was like, these people are freaking insanely, like, it's
on the ball.
Yes, and they're hilarious, like, all of them.
They all have to come up with shit on the fly. Again, it's doing an impression, singing, dancing. They have to just go. Like, here's your cue, hit it.
Yeah, and if you want to see things like that, you could join us at the Villain Theater. Like,
yes,
you know, here in Miami, we have
actually their eighth anniversary is coming up. I think at the end of this month, and they're doing a fundraising show. So you should go see
the
that.
Villain Theater, a community theater group here in Miami that is absolutely amazing. But yeah, I mean, whose line is it anyway? Is like great show, and I mean, Wayne Brady was a huge part of that.
Yeah,
you know?
He's
hilarious. So, you know, good for him. So enjoy. Can you imagine Wayne Brady and MaFe Walker having a lasso?
Now I want them to.
And MaFe's like, Wayne, I'm talking an alien.
Listen, maybe aliens fall under pansexual.
No, I was thinking that she would be great fodder for his next comedy routine. That's the route I was going with.
She should be on Let's Make a Deal.
On Let's Make a Deal?
Yeah, the show that he hosts.
Oh, yes. That's still on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It survived the pandemic,
Huh?
It survived the pandemic,
You know, when I used to watch Let's Make a Deal when we were kids, they had a revival in like the late 80s, early 90s. I forgot with who. Who else did it?
My gut says Pat Sajak, but I think that's wrong.
No, it wasn't Pat Sajak.
I can't remember now who it was. We'll look it up.
I would always be like, ¿Por qué aquí la gente van disfrazada? I didn't know that was part of the shtick.
That was the whole shtick.
La gente viene disfrazada. Siempre había alguien go, there's always somebody who dressed up como una gallina.
There was.
Siempre. There's always a chicken.
I feel like maybe the chicken costume was provided.
You think so?
Well, what are the odds that like every episode there was a chicken? That, you know what probably happens is that there's probably people who show up who don't know you have to dress up.
Right.
And so they have like, you know, a closet full of like, coge ponte esto, you're a baby, you're a clown.
Yeah.
You know?
Una gallina.
Una gallina. Yes.
Right.
You're a gallina.
I'd probably be the gallina. Actually, no, I'll go dressed as a monk. The monk has not been on national television.
You know what? For that reason alone, I will allow you to do it.
So I'm like, my monk costume has traveled state lines.
Yes. And now it's making its daytime debut.
And then after it makes its daytime debut, then I need to take it to Canada. So I could say across international
lines.
Just Canada's enough.
Or Mexico. But something, something that close, yes.
You know,
yes.
I still have it.
Oh, I have no doubt. I'm surprised that you didn't find it when you were cleaning out the garage and saved it to show me.
No. It's in my closet in my parents' room. In my parents' house.
So your
my
parents'
room
house.
in my parents'
Okay.
house. Yeah. No. We won't get rid of my monk costume. For those of you who have not been listening to us since the first episode, I was a monk from 1995 through about 2007 or 8. I mean, I was every year a monk. Because, excuse me, I'm not really big on dressing up in Halloween. So I'm like, it's a monk costume. Like,
I'm going to one year, now that I know it's at your parents' house, you know how sometimes people will like, you know, go and get like a like their jersey framed? I'm going to go and get your monk costume framed.
Yeah. You know the story of where that came from, right?
That's from the Renaissance Fair,
My
right?
grandmother made it for me when we went to the Renaissance Fair in the 10th grade.
Yeah.
I don't know why, of all the things I could dress up for the Renaissance Fair, why I decided to dress up as a monk.
I can tell you why.
Why?
Because it was dressed up enough that you could say you were dressed up. But like, okay, you weren't going to wear tights.
No.
Right. You weren't going to wear tights. You weren't going to dress up as a court jester.
No.
Right. You weren't going to go as like a king because that required big sleeves and a cape and everything. You weren't going to do that.
Too much.
Right. So monk.
Yeah, probably that was.
Yeah, no, I know your entire thought process. Like, I'm telling you, that's why you're a monk.
There was one year though that I did use a monk costume as a Jedi.
Okay, all right, that's
Right.
that's
There was
fair.
one year.
Yes.
Yeah, but then I was like, I got to stick to my brand of being a monk.
I love that your brand is monk.
Monk, yeah. You know who's the first person I saw dressed up as a monk? Ben Seaver.
Oh wow, I
In
forgot
the
about
episode
that.
of Growing Pains where Candace Cameron comes out,
Yeah.
that she was his date and she was dressed as a princess
I forgot about that.
in a
episode.
pink, and he's dressed as a monk, and he has a wig on.
The little mushroom
Yeah.
thingy.
Whoa, listeners, whoever
We
knows
just
that
went way
reference, you are over the age of 40.
Yeah, maybe 38.
Maybe 38, 37.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway.
No younger than 35.
No. Anyway, everybody, we hope you listened, laughed, and learned. As always, remember to grab your pastelito, your croqueta, and your cafecito. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yep.
Have a great weekend, everyone. And bueno, espérate, this is next Friday. Back to school is coming.
Back to school is coming.
Yeah, back to school is coming.
Yes,
So
but you can have some wings before back to school this Saturday, August 12th at J Wakefield. Will be
eso mismo. And we have our elote wings.
Yes.
So we'll see you guys there. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Cuídense. Bye. Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.